last week on the Nicoletti Show. Without further ado, let's welcome him to the show. Logan Fulmer, what's up, baby?
Al, it's always a pleasure. We take property from an inefficient market because there are no buyers for these messes, resolve it and take it to an efficient marketplace, which is usually CoStar, LoopNet, or MLS. Thankfully, because we buy cheap, we were able to play the price lowering game anytime we needed and still not lose money at any one point and continue the velocity through our inventory.
For you to tell me about how that's a huge component now of your business, where has that gone for you?
Essentially, I'm flipping it. My interest in 90% of this stuff is short term. I'm buying it, solving the problems, and selling it. It creates cash. It creates cash flow like a manufacturing plant that spits TVs out the back. I spit fixed titles out the back. I came across some parcels that had much more value than I anticipated, but this was 100 acres at the edge of Austin, Texas. This site I bought for $7 million, and it looks like my exit with the mud's about $28 million in a 30-month process.
So I've had in a 30-month process.
It's huge.
But I think where a lot of investors struggle is understanding how to operate internally with their team.
Having the right role cut out as we got people in our business really made it easy for me to spend time working on it.
Have you thought of ever buying out the interest and then saying, let's just let it ride and go to tax deed auction?
Sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Sometimes we get into a deal and it's not what we expected or it's problematic. Depending on the way it looks, if the tax lawsuit's been filed, but a final order hasn't been issued, we'll buy a person's interest out and then go in and intervene in the lawsuit as a defendant and get our names registered. So when the final order of sale comes out, we're listed as a defendant and we have the right to collect excess proceeds.
Logan, always so much value you provide on these episodes. And we're excited to see Dirty Deeds. It's going to be a video podcast.
Yeah, we'll get it uploaded to the streaming sites, but it will be available on YouTube.
We appreciate you, man. We love it.
You got it, brother. Bye, Al.
Take care. Wow, another episode in the books on the Nicoletti Show. If you missed any of that amazing episode, go back, check it out. And of course, you can find all of our content if you just scan the QR code at the top left of the screen. You'll get everything from the YouTube channel to Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, you name it. Subscribe, follow. This is what it's about, so you can get more of these videos, more content, so you can learn about what topics you need to know more about. And of course, if you want to find any of the probate, quiet title, all the crazy stuff in that world, you can find it right there. And we're rolling for another episode tonight, and a Wednesday night in the books right here. We're going to do this one, and I got a special one for you tonight. I got Phillip Vincent from Mom's House going to talk about the silver tsunami and the coming future of what's going to happen in our real estate market with the seniors and the baby boomers. And this is a real big topic for me because I'm in the probate space. He's like in the pre-probate space, and it's going to be a great one for you all to learn about what's to come. And I'm excited. I got my pen out, my paper, and I'm ready to rock this thing, so let's do it. Hey everybody, my name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate. And we are always going to bring the best in the game to you, no matter what industry they're in real estate, business, entrepreneurship, you name it. We want to bring you the best value so we can provide this to you on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show tonight, I got Phillip Vincent from Mom's House. So much to love about this guy, and so much information that he's going to be able to bring on the coming of the silver tsunami and the baby boomer era, and how you can capitalize in this market and what's to come. So without further ado, let's welcome Phillip to the show. Phillip, what is up, man?
Hi, Al. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for being here. Always great seeing you at Family Mastermind. I remember we met a couple years back when I had just been in. I think you had just joined at that time, and I was like, Mom's House, what's going on with Mom's House? And I remember Matt was telling me about it, and you guys are doing so much to educate and provide value to the community out there. And I'm just super excited to learn about your perspective, your side of the industry, and how you can help others. So just a little background for people, kind of how did you get into this space? What ignited that for you?
Yeah, I'll be happy to share that story. I've been in real estate for 25 years, and I'm not going to bore you guys with that story for 25 years, but I kind of did the business backwards. I started off in development, and I was driving for dollars before that was even a thing because I'd sell to builders, and I was wholesaling before I knew what that was, and I was flipping before I knew what that was, and then I lived through the downturn in 08, 9, 10, and I was trying to always, my curiosity said, where are the best leads in real estate? Today, even today, where are the best leads in real estate? And I started to really look at the stereotype of who my sellers were. So we talk, as investors, we talk a lot about bricks and sticks a lot, the houses. But I'm going to talk today a lot about the humans you're buying houses from and what's going on. What's the flashpoint in their life when they say, I have to sell my house right now. And so today I hope to share some really eye-opening statistics and where the cheese is headed, like some things that you guys have not heard of. I really think you guys are going to go, oh my God, it makes so much sense. And to hear it, I hope to provide a ton of value about this journey of really, I'm a real estate guy, but I ended up becoming a senior living guy because that's where the flashpoint is for sellers of real estate. And they need so much more than just real estate. And, people say, Phillip, what a great little niche you have. And I go, wait till you hear the numbers. It's not little at all. And I can't wait to share that today with everyone here.
Yeah, and let's dive in on that, right? This is going to be the biggest thing in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And I know that excites you when you talk about it. And it's something that when I jumped into the probate space, I really went hard after the niche because I knew what was coming. I knew that this was going to be an industry that was going to last and not just be a little phase, a little season. This is going to be a long-term process. So talk to us about the silver tsunami. What's coming? What's the real estate market going to be like? And the impact of the senior community?
The numbers are 12,000 people a day in our country turn 65. And so when you look at the baby boomer generation, that's 1946 to 1964. And so people that were born in 1946 are just now starting to move into senior living. And so for the next 20 years, that wave is going to get continually bigger. And this tsunami, they call it, is this once in a lifetime opportunity where there's going to be over 100 million Americans are going to be over that age group. There's going to be more people over the age of 65 than there's going to be under 18 for the first time in our country. And with an aging nation, there's a lot of things. I mean, we could do a whole show of the economy of what that means. We don't have time for that today. It's scary to talk about because there's contributors and there's takeawayers. And I'm not saying that they don't have a purpose. They do, but they're more consumers than they are contributors. And the thing that they have is tons and tons of equity. And they're going to be using that equity in new ways that we've probably never even heard of, to keep their lifestyle as awesome as it is today. And so in that is our opportunity for real estate deals. The stats show that 7 out of 10 Americans over 65 are going to live in long-term care before they pass. So 100 million, 70% is 70 million, 90% of them own a house. So we're talking about 50, 60 million people over the next 2 decades are going to need to sell their house.
Gotcha. And I can tell you, I've seen those statistics too. I put them up in probate presentations, and it's crazy to watch how the progression happens. It just happens exponentially. Like if you look at it from 2010 to 2015, it was a little number. And then all of a sudden, once you hit 2020, once you hit 2025 and through 2035, it just escalates. I mean, it just keeps going up exponentially. And people are just like, well, wait, why? What's going on? And I'm sure you can agree with this. Back in the 70s and 80s, everyone was focused on buying real estate. People bought real estate. It was the thing to do in that generation. And so the baby boomers have held on to it. They don't want to sell it. Or, something you'll talk about, they just want to live out their years in it, right? So the stats for the amount of baby boomers that owned real estate have to be just ginormous.
Off the charts. They own over 50% of the equity in homes in the nation. It's over $30 trillion. That's 12 zeros, guys. If you're looking up trillion, that's a lot of zeros behind there. So that equity is in their house. It's because they lived. And by the way, I want to just say this out loud. There's a difference between a 1946 boomer and a 1964 boomer. The 1946 boomer is an older generation, and they didn't keep up with the Joneses. They stayed in that house, like you're saying, since the 60s, 70s, 80s, and they didn't keep buying McMansions. I think the younger boomers, the ones born in 64, they're maybe a little more, they're spending out of their shoes a little bit more. So it's even going to change over the next 20 years from what is today to what it will be in 20 years. But the wave of how many people there are, all of them have equity. They lived through the 80s and the 90s, just prosper. Guys, 1946. What happened in 1945? We had an end of a war, World War II. They came home and they started booming. They bought the houses and the highways went in, and they had 2.3 kids, in some cases 6 kids, right? And so this country grew, and it's been prosperous times, and they're going to want the rest of their life to stay that way, and they're going to do that with all their assets they have accumulated. And so today, I feel like, I don't want this to be a negative call at all. I do feel like today's kids don't have the same outlook as they did when they were 20 years old. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that works, because I just read an article from the Wall Street Journal this week. They live in too big of houses and they don't want to downsize. And that's interesting, because that's that supply and demand issue again. And so what's going to make them move? Probate. And what's going to make them move? Needed to move into senior living. So the flashpoint of that boomer having to sell, or needing to sell, let's say, is usually a death and or needing to move into senior living. That's the two reasons why.
Right. And that's what makes this industry really interesting, because there's really 2 avenues to this, right? Either they get out of that house and they go to the assisted living, or they live out their years in there, and then the family needs to deal with it later. And with the amount of equity that is going on with this market right now, the kids are gonna want the money from the house, unless there's some kind of short sale position on it, but not from what we're learning from previous episodes about where the foreclosure industry is right now. So who knows what it's gonna be like then? But there's gonna be a lot of equity. There should be equity there. So what are you seeing on the front lines when it comes to the senior assisted living areas or long-term care industry? What are you seeing there?
It's a unique business. You don't take a healthy mom to senior living, right? There's a reason why mom's moving to assisted living. And when they get there in 6 months, they always say, I wish I would have done this years ago. But they only say that after they've lived there 6 months. So it's so hard to have a business where the right thing to do is get them there and let them get acclimated and have socialization. There's a term called ADLs, or activities of daily living, where they have help with their med management. They're feeding themselves, they're socialized, and there's always this uptick in their health. Don't we all want a healthy parent, right? That's why we moved them there. And so people fight that. So the conundrum is of the business, I made a promise to my husband that I would live out the rest of the days in our forever home. They fight that every single day, right? That I made a promise to my husband, who's long, he passed away 8 years ago. Guys, just so you know, we die first. It's just the stats. Even if dad is still alive, here's what I love about this business. They say, what are we going to do with mom's house? And here's the stat: 7 out of 8 people moving into senior living are female. And so there's a reason why we call it mom's house. It's because that's normally who we're talking about.
Gotcha. Yep. I was wondering that, but the statistics are right there for you. So Phillip, when you're getting in this industry as a realtor, as an investor, what kind of value add are you looking to bring to the table in terms of the seniors and what you're able to provide the family in terms of trying to help them move out, help them sell? What do you provide?
I'll start with both sides of the coin. There's the senior living community side that we add value to, and then also we call our daughter Judy, or that adult child helping mom. And so the communities, they're basically a big multifamily structure, right? That's what a 180 bed community is, a big multifamily structure, and they live and die on something called census. And census is just a fancy word for occupancy. How many people are occupying their 180 beds? And so they check out the percentage of occupancy constantly. Something I want to share with everyone listening today: these communities will pay you 1 month's rent for bringing them a family that moves in, or a person that moves in. Well, you might be saying, well, how much is that? The average is around $6,000, Al, for one move-in. It's similar to like a real estate commission. And that's the thing. When Nana has to sell her forever home, that might be a listing or an as-is sale, but now she's moving into senior living. There is no buyer's agency, but there is. It's called the referral and placement business. And so I was in a room the other day with 100 agents. I was on a panel. I said, how many people here know what the referral and placement business is for senior living? Out of the 100 people, 0 people raised their hands. And I'm like, wow, guys, we're sitting on this $1 billion industry that nobody knows about. And when you guys find out that's actually where your real estate leads are going to come from, I mean, everyone on the show probably is a little real estate adjacent, that the referral and placement business is huge. And so you asked me a question, why does senior living care? They care about 3 things: converting as many prospects into clients as possible, minimizing the discounts given, and increasing the length of stay. And I knew we fixed the first and the third one with helping them get their house sold faster. But then I even thought more about why they give a discount. And the reason is simple, is they're trying to incentivize them to move in. They'll say like, I know you don't have your house all the way sold yet, or it's not cleaned up. Go ahead and move in, Fred, and we'll give you a discount until you get that house sold. So then I realized, oh man, we fixed all 3 issues. In fact, we're a census conversion tool for senior living. And now let's talk about daughter Judy. Mm-hmm. Judy is the adult child. She might be 60, 65, dealing with her 80, 85-year-old mother. When I say daughter, she's 65 years old. And she's usually the one in town. And she has a brother that lives 4 states away. And she's got a sister that lives in town, doesn't help with anything. And so all this falls on daughter Judy's shoulders, the hospital visits, the doctor's visits, trying to keep mom happy, trying to keep her brother and sister happy with all their opinions, trying to keep her own husband happy, trying to keep the communities happy, all this paperwork. Where's this money going to come from? And when they get to that moment of they know they need to move, the last thing they're thinking about is, we should probably do a rehab on mom's house to try to get top dollar. Mm-hmm. And so you asked me a question earlier about how does this, real estate investors and real estate agents, if you listen to this today and just walk in the front door of a senior living community and say, I'm Phillip and I'm an investor and I buy houses from senior, the word investor, guys, is only self-serving for us. Who's that word impressive to? Investor, right? I mean, we love that word, but does the senior living love that word? Of course not. All they hear is shark. That's all they hear. And if you're a real estate agent, I hate to say this, but it might even be worse, because when was the last time you met a real estate agent and you're like, tell me more? Like, no. And senior, and there's this conundrum of this business where they need to move in quick, but they're trying to get top dollar, and the family doesn't want to do a rehab, but you don't want to get lowballed. Nobody wants to get lowballed, right? So they're trying to, it's always that hassle factor of how do we get the most money out of this house? Because remember, it's not like probate. They're still with us. They need that money, and the kids don't get any of it. It's going to go sit in an account, and it's going to get whittled down by $6,000 a month for as long as mom stays in that level of care. Gotcha. And so we help both sides, right? We take away the convenience. Do we get listings out of this? Yes. A lot of listings come from here. Do we get as-is purchases? Yes. But helping with the placement, the house, and the stuff. I don't want to leave out the stuff because it's one of the biggest ones. People, seniors especially, their entire identity is their tchotchkes. And that makes it really hard to move.
Yeah, and you're seeing both sides of it, right? You're seeing the daughter that's always there with mom all the time, and then you're seeing the family that's not, and they really got to do something, and they just want to offload it, right? So let me back up just a second on that referral and placement business. So if nobody knew what that was at your seminar, now you've explained it. You're that vocal point of, hey, there's this opportunity to help other people out there. Can you elaborate exactly what that referral system is and how people can get into it?
Yeah. So just like an apartment building, if you brought them a person who moved in and they paid a percentage of rent, in the case of senior living, they will usually pay around 1 month's rent. I've seen it as low as 50%. And Al, I've seen it as high as 200% of 1 month's rent if they're desperate enough to have people move in. They need new people moving in. Let's be blunt here for a second. It's senior living. There's a front door open and the back door's open, if you know what I'm saying. They only live there for a short amount of time. They're in senior living around 21 months total. And that's the average. And so they're always constantly needing new people to move into their communities. So they pay a referral fee. That is a piece of paper. It's called a referral and placement agreement. And there's some franchises out there that charge, 50 to 150 grand to get started. That should tell you about the validity of this. Mm-hmm. And with ours, it's more of a learning program. And so we teach people how to do this. Plus we teach the real estate and the stuff. There's really 3 different ways that you can help seniors. By the way, they need like 80 things. It's not just the 3 things we specialize, but those 3 are the big, I say it's like a 3-legged stool. And let's be clear. Number 1, where will mom or dad get the best care? That's the biggest. That's referral and placement. What do we do with the house? What do we do with the stuff? That's the 3-legged stool of conversion of, how you can help these families multiple ways.
Got it. And I think you were even telling me that like the percentage of of realtors or people that are out there that are even doing this referral program is like, what, close to 2%?
Yeah,
which is
staggering.
Yeah, it's a staggering stat, right? Like only 2% are focused on this, and we're heading to the biggest generation of transfer of wealth that's coming, and it's like, whoa, everybody's not eyeing the right thing.
Let's say it a different way. There's 2 million real estate agents fighting over 4 million listings. There's 1,500 referral and placement agents fighting over 3.6 million placements. That is a staggering number. I always say, Al, if I made the number 10 times as big, if Mom's House is the most successful thing in the world and I made it 10 times as big, it would still be laughably off. 1,500 to 15,000 compared to 2 million. I mean, we could lose 1 million real estate agents tonight and not miss a beat. We could gain 10x the amount of referral and placement agents out there and still be underserved.
Got it. And Phillip, let me ask this question too, because you seem really knowledgeable about this. As we go on into the years of 2030, 2035, there's going to be more and more boomers. So what's eventually going to happen with the placement of a lot of these boomers that's to come, right? With a lot of these facilities, are there just going to be more and more, or is that part of the process of these places trying to figure that out? What's going to happen?
From a 30,000 foot view, there's people that have money, the haves and the have-nots, just like everything else in life. And so the entire industry is built around the haves. The people that have money, have equity, it's called private pay. And so the industry, you drive down your street, guys, and you'll see these communities being built. They look like ski lodges. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful, right? And we build them that nice for our own guilt. When we drop our parents off, we're like, oh, it looks like a ski lodge. It must be the best care. That's not the case. And it's $12,000 a month for this place, right? And so I think I'm getting off topic from here. What was the question?
Well, I mean, as we keep heading into 2030,
the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers. How are they going to fit all these people in all these places, right? I mean, it's going to overrun a lot of the facilities, or are there plans in place for even that? Because you and I had talked about, you don't get into this industry, but we had talked about how some people are setting up private homes for people so that they can run it out of their home, not a facility. Yeah. What's going to happen with the capacity rates?
So the build rate, but the age rate's even higher. So as much as they're building nonstop, it's growing faster than they can build. And so there's a few different ways. Things like true co-housing, what I call the Golden Girl scenario, right? That's a real way to do this. Living back with her family, that's a real way to do this. It's not probably the best if mom has dementia or Alzheimer's, right? But that's what families are doing. Also things like the RAL, like you said, people are turning single family homes into long-term care communities with licenses. That's not what Mom's House does. I want to be clear about that. We help keep those communities full. So if you have 6 beds and you only have 4 people, you better find 2 more people to move in there, or the numbers don't work in the economy of that. And so there's 45,000 senior living communities. Last I heard, there's about 24,000 what's called RALs, or residential assisted living communities, with like houses. And so even with that, the numbers are outpacing the amount are there. As far as the government goes, Al, I really think they're going to turn housing into healthcare, or healthcare into housing, however you want to say that. I think the government's going to have to subsidize the people, the have-nots, because they will never, ever, ever create enough Medicaid beds. And I want to guys, write this down. Medicaid will not take care of your end of life unless you are broke and destitute. So that's not your goal. Don't be thinking, oh, I'm just going to put my mom in a Medicaid community. That's not your goal. That's like, you want them in the Taj Mahal, you don't want them in the Motel 6, right? And that's the difference there. So they're going to incentivize them staying in their houses longer. And you might be thinking, isn't that counterproductive to Mom's House, right? We get paid when they move. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're forgetting how staggering these numbers are. There's a huge percentage that will have to move. That's where we concentrate on. But the numbers are so big that there's so much pie. Like this is, no, I'm not worried about aging in place. In fact, I hope everyone gets to age in place for as long as it's safe for them.
Right. And hopefully they can just keep up the capacity rates for it. Let me go back for a second to the real estate portion, because you and I had talked about this and I thought it was the wildest thing that we discussed, which are this new thing of equity agreements in these homes. And I had asked you, I was like, are you talking about like, mortgages or reverse mortgages? You're like, no, this is something else. What is this new thing that you're seeing with equity agreements?
The funds are buying a percentage of our houses for a future payback in a future time, namely 10 years from now or less. And so why I think it's going to be so effective is because there's no payments back. And I'm using my air quotes because, guys, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So let's not pretend like you don't have to pay that back. So what they know is if that house is going to go up, what do they say? Houses double every 15 years. So not only will they have a percent, let's just say the house is worth $500,000 and they buy 20% for $100,000. That is worth $150,000. They know in 10 years, it's like a guaranteed return. And these funds that have so many billions of dollars that they need to just put places in assets like that. And here's why the funds love it so much. When they buy the whole house for $500,000, now they're a landlord, they're a rehabber, they're a taxpayer, they're all these horrible things. They're like, oh, let's just buy 1/5. And I'm making it could be any percentage, but let's just say let's buy 5 houses, but only buy 20% of all 5, and we'll keep the people there in their houses. And that's where I think these boomers who are sitting on a ton of equity, they want to finance the trip to Italy, they want to buy their grandkid the new car. They're going to start. Once you start taking that equity out with no payback, once you're going to use some air quotes, they're going to do it again and again and again. I think that's the new future of investors buying houses pieces at a time.
Gosh, that is, and it's crazy that the hedge funds are doing this, and they're kind of beating it to the punch that they know what's coming, and they're just trying to buy. They're buying their way in, and for them on the back end to say, well, nope, we own a piece of this, so now we're gonna buy it.
Even scarier, they own a first right of refusal on every house. So once they buy a piece, you can't even sell it until they kind of say now, because now they've got this hedge. There's a term for that when you can buy it at X amount of dollars. They might just say, we'll take the whole house then. It's crazy. But I mean, guys, Google it. The equity agreements are going to get bigger and bigger. It shouldn't stop any of us from buying houses, right? We all have to play the game. There's millions of people we can help here. That lives out. I think that's going to get to them before they ever get to me. And so let's just use that example of the $500,000 house. If they took 2 chunks of 100, they still have tons of equity, right? So when I buy the house, it's no different, like you said before. Do they have a reverse mortgage? Do they have a regular mortgage? Do they have an equity agreement? All that's irrelevant as long as my offer is higher than what they owe.
Right. But at the end of the day, those are things that are hurdles, right, to getting into that industry, because those things are going to pop up. And how do you solve that? How do you get around that? And then, of course, yeah, if your purchase price is going to be higher than what their equity position is or what they want, then you can get in. Have you been seeing a rise in reverse mortgages more and more? Have you been seeing those and families trying to tackle those? Because those can get pretty nasty with the amount of interest that is owed. Those get crazy. And sometimes they have a hard time trying to get out of them once they've entered into those agreements. What's your take?
Most families don't know what they signed. I've talked to so many adult children who say, my parents own their house outright. Oh, but they have a reverse mortgage for more than they owe. And I'm like, that means they don't own their house outright. There's this disconnect between what a reverse mortgage is and equity in the home. And they're like, well, no, my parents paid off the house in the 90s. And I'm like, yeah. And then they've lived there an extra 20 years, getting that reverse mortgage money every single month. And so what saved a lot of families was the past 3 years where things started to go flying up in price at 20% a year. So that got a lot of houses, in fact, millions of houses, Al, that were underwater are probably now at least to break even or even better. So the economy, we're not talking about that today, but that big uptick probably saved millions of reverse mortgages from being underwater.
Yeah, because I remember, Phillip, a crazy story. This is on the probate side, so not the pre-probate side, but it was the probate side. I remember this family early on in my practice when the family wanted to sell, really nice area, wanted to sell. It was 4 kids. 3 of them were ready. There was a 4th one that didn't want to sell, wanted to be in the house. And I remember at the time, I was like, all right, it's a great area, really prime area. Purchase price was like $500K. And I was like, any mortgages, any reverse mortgages? Oh, they were like, oh yeah, there's a reverse mortgage. And I was like, oh boy. And I was like, how much is the payoff? They said $425. I said, listen, if you don't do something right away, by the time you sell, the interest is going to be through the roof. And so what happened? You know what happened. They took forever. They took 8 months. They couldn't get the other one out. Finally, the last one wanted to sign. And what they found out is it went from 425 to 485 in the span of 8 months. And they barely made anything. It was razor thin margins. And so we're just seeing this more and more. And there was a stat that we saw on Paul Leisel's episode talking about like where the future was going with the amount of reverse mortgages. And there was like this little blip of 6% of reverse mortgages going to be popping up, which is, it may be a small number, but in terms of that category of mortgage was really high. So I don't know. I'm sure you've seen that come up more and more. Let me ask you this too. I mean, in terms of lead flow and lead strategy, what are your favorite types of leads? Is it pre-probate, probate? You know, what's your favorite?
I love pre-probate and probate leads. I look at what else they need besides to sell the house, right? Just because somebody passed away doesn't mean they have to sell the house, but there's a good chance it does mean that there's change afoot, right? That's why we work those leads. What else do they need though, guys? Let's just talk about it. The husband's, they've been married 62 years. The husband passes. He was the caretaker of his wife, or they took care of each other. When he passes away, now she's by herself, and that's when they become a placement lead, right? And there's more going on. We can tell I hate to put blanket answers on the entire nation or 300,000 people that pass away per month, but about 60,000 of them have a house, right? And so if we're in this business, we want to work probate leads. We want to work probate leads where they actually have a house, right? We're in the house business. A lot of us are. And so they're usually a little more affluent. I'm just using the percentages. I know there's rich people in apartments, but they're a little more affluent. So that's the kind of person we want to help. Plus with referral and placement, that's usually a good sign that mom, if dad passed, can she take care of herself on her own? A lot of times they can. That becomes a very good referral and placement lead to try to help find mom the best care, which is the number one thing in all of this.
Yeah, and we were kind of joking around, but it's almost like a pre-probate lead, right? Because there's pre-probate leads, which mean like the person died, but they haven't done anything with the probate yet. And then there's probate, which is already in the courthouse, but it's like pre-probate.
Yeah,
is the Phillip Vincent
I think we're all pre-probate. Even me and you sitting here today, we're right? We haven't done it yet, but no, I know what you mean. It's like and I think you and I are we're in that same window of time, and it doesn't take long, right? If me and you were brothers and we wouldn't start with 24-hour care. We'd say, Mom, let's just get somebody to come in the house a couple hours a day, and we would want 1 hour a day. Well, you can't get staff to drive across town for 1 hour a day, so they put a 4-hour minimum on us, $35 an hour. What are we talking about? $140 a day times 30 days a month. Now we're like, oh my, we're spending thousands and thousands of dollars. And then once you let them in, here's what happens very quickly. They'll say, hey, Al and Phillip, mom actually has dementia. This 4 hours a day we're here is not enough. She actually needs 24-hour care. And now that ball starts rolling. And so that ball rolls very fast. And usually it's within 21, 24 months is how long they're going to be in the senior living world.
Got it. And it's definitely... there's just going to be definitely so many more of these that are going to pop up. Like I talk about this to people, like if you're not focused on the pre-probate and the probate market and what's to come, you're missing out on a whole area, because this is probably going to take a third, if not more, of the real estate industry. It's gonna cut right into it. And if you don't learn it now and how to overcome it and asking the right questions and what to say and how to help them, how to overcome some of these crazy things with equity agreements, how to overcome reverse mortgage issues, how to help them, where to go place them, you're not going to help yourself, because other people are eventually going to go, well, wait a second. I've heard that episode with Phillip Vincent, and it's really heading in this direction. I've heard Al at a probate talk, and he's been talking about the silver tsunami since 2017. Been talking about this thing forever too. It's funny, you're right. We're in the same boat. Like we've been talking about the same thing, and we just hadn't connected officially at the time, and then we're here, right? So it's crazy how this is all piecing together, and how we both are at the same time. Like you need to learn about this now. You need to figure this out now. You need to learn from people. You need to follow Phillip. You need to follow his YouTube channel. Learn from people like that. Follow our YouTube channel. Follow what we're doing with videos, because this is the next biggest thing in the real estate market. Phillip, I just want to clarify one key point that I had asked you on before, which was, is it a good investment strategy to buy and own a senior facility? And I ask you that because I have seen a few people in Facebook groups, Facebook forums that have lightly talked about getting into that niche, about looking for that kind of opportunity. What is your take on that?
It's a phenomenal business if you have great caregivers. It is a scary business if you're going to try to wing that part of it. And that's my thought, is don't look at it as a real estate play. The numbers are sexy when you see it as a real estate play. You're like, wow, look at this number. And I'll just find somebody to run it. No, you better know who's going to run it before you ever get started. So we need it. In fact, guys, I would start with a residential RAL myself for my own parents. That's where I wouldn't go to the big box. I would go to a small community because that's how much I believe in them. I want to get to know the caretaker and the person there. So I do believe in them wholeheartedly. But when you said lightly get into the business, that almost like made my skin kind of itch. I'll be like, you can't lightly get into the care business. It is a hard business and it's a much needed business. And like anything in life, if you run it right and have good care, you're going to have tons and tons of customers. You're going to make money. If you try to wing it, I know a lot of people that just glanced over that part, and it's a very hard business if you do that. So I think just like with anything in life, don't half-ass it. Put your whole ass in, or don't just start at all. Like do it all or nothing, guys. And it's because our parents, our moms, our seniors we take care of deserve it. They don't deserve half. I don't want to hear it lightly if it's coming to my own mother.
I gotcha. Yeah. I want mom to be in the best care. I want mom to be enjoying her best life, living the dream, eating the creme brulee and not just having the pudding, right?
Right.
Yeah. You want that kind of setting. I really ask that because I've just seen some people really talk about trying to get into that. And I guess other people have talked about it at other masterminds or meetups. And so if anybody has seen that, you've probably seen that kind of stuff. Let me ask you this, Phillip. So let's talk about what's to come. The next 10 years, the next 20 years, right? Yeah. What's coming in the next 10, 20 years with entrepreneurship, and what should we be focused on?
I believe that housing will become healthcare, or healthcare will become housing. So not necessarily like the Section 8 voucher, but I believe there's going to be a voucher that says housing is a right that's going to be paid through healthcare. And I believe we'll be able to own those houses. So I think there's a gigantic opportunity. Once again, it's because there's so many people. If I talk to 10 people, 7 of them don't have the money to pay for the care. And the 3 that do, they're the ones that are living in the places that look like a ski lodge, mm-hmm. right? And so what are we going to do for those other 7? The government has to figure that out. They're heavily incentivizing even our own relatives to take care of our own relative. You know, if you would have told me 30 years ago there'd be a billboard that says, take care of your grandma and get paid for it, I'm like, no way. And that is actually happening right now. And we need it. We need more caregivers. And because if you are caregiving full time, you can't even keep another job a lot of times because it doesn't really stop. And so they're incentivizing staying in the house, which I believe will become healthcare. So I think there's going to be vouchers to offset that. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I just want to say this too. When you think about there's a lot of real estate people listening to us. Why does anyone sell a house? We had a baby, we need a bigger house. We got a divorce, we're splitting the house, which never works. Somebody, move into senior living. Like that's a real need, guys. When they come to me, they truly need to sell their house. And we're thinking about selling in the springtime. No, like they have to sell to pay the $6,000 a month on average for care. And so I work with highly motivated families that are trying to get to this solution. And it's a really fun niche, and it's not little, and it's not in the future, guys. The tsunami is here now, right now, tonight. You're listening to this. If you don't take this seriously, you're going to buy houses from someone else that did, and that's not a threat. It's just that's the number. You're going to be buying houses from somebody else that did take this seriously.
Yep, it's coming. It's here, and it's only going to get bigger. Phillip, one thing I was just thinking about, I was like, wait a second, I haven't even asked them this, which is how important is it right now for agents, for the people that are getting into this industry, to start really building the relationships with the people that can help with those 80 things that you were talking about before? Whether it's helping people declutter the house or appraise things or help sell little trinkets or deal with the art collection, deal with the car, deal with, you know what I'm thinking? Like, I mean, where does one start with that, and how important is it to build those relationships now for these kinds of things?
Yeah, we have a credibility packet, and in that is all those people you said, the gold buyer, the tchotchke buyer. Like if you have a salt and pepper shaker collection that's worth a bunch of money, I'll find the guy that collects salt and pepper, and that's a real thing. People do collect salt and pepper shaker collections, and so I know the right people to help with this stuff. And everybody thinks their Beanie Baby collection is going to pay for their care. It's not, guys. Most people, I'll give you a scary stat. In St. Louis, the average estate sale generates between $3,000 and $5,000 in revenue. That's how much all this stuff sells for. $3,000 to $5,000. The cost to put that sale on, Al, is $3,000 to $5,000. So it's even worse than zero, because if it takes you 90 days to realize zero, all the time and effort to get to zero was, and you can't rehab the house until it's cleaned out. All families should look at their stuff and try to make this as simple as possible. And I think when I think of your world too, so many seniors think, I have a will, I'm good. Mm-hmm. And you and I both know, right? I saw the eye roll. You deal with that every day. And I heard somebody say one time, do you love the state of Florida more than you love your kids? And they're like, no, of course not. Well, if you don't get your act together and get these papers in order, you do, because now the state's going to take their chunk of flesh, pound of flesh, before your kids get it. And like we need to wake up and I think, I'm not going to talk disparagingly to the people online, but you can buy stuff online that's, attorneys, and that doesn't protect you guys. There's so many things that they think they're fine because they spent $100 and they're not. And so take your asset protection seriously. Talk to people, experts like Al, right? I mean, we should do this as a country. In fact, we should want to do this. We're so weird in the United States that we think it's morbid to talk about death, and we don't plan for it, or we just put our toe in instead of being really good at it to protect our assets. And so I wish, if you can talk to your parents right now, here's a few pieces of advice. Go to their house, pull up all the rugs, any of the trip hazards. There's almost always a fall that makes parents move into senior living. Outside of that, try to get with them on their paperwork, make sure they have trust and things involved to protect. It's like planting a tree, Al. Mm-hmm. When were you supposed to plant a tree? 20 years ago or today, right? That's it. And that's the same thing with estate planning is let's do better than we're doing currently.
And it's scary when you speak to somebody on the phone and they say, well, I guess, you know what, instead of doing that, I'm just going to do a will. And I just had that call today. And I was like, whoa, I mean, where does this all come from? I don't know where a lot of people have heard, let's just throw it out and just spit it out of our mouth of hey, we'll just do this. There needs to be a lot of thought that goes behind that, right? Will or no will, in Florida, you still need probate, right? You own it, you die, you need probate. Very few times does it avoid going through that. People have talked about trusts, life estate, ladybird deeds. You titled it husband and wife. You know how many people don't do that, Phillip? They don't title it husband and wife, and it's only in the husband. The husband dies, the wife thinks I get it all. Whoa. Let's back up. What happens? And it's like, or you have multiple people on the title because they inherited it from grandma in 1980, and all 7 of them are on it. And then all 7, it's like nobody thinks about all these things that are coming and all these issues that are coming, but they're here. They're happening every day. And you have to be really educated about what to do, what's next, how to figure it out, where to go, who to go to, and don't just guess and assume. So, you talked a lot about the wave and what's coming. You talked a lot about, what you need to know. And you're right. People need to get educated on this now. You have to get the education now so you know what's coming. I think this is always an interesting topic. I'm always looking for stats. I'm sure you're always looking for stats online. I'm always waiting for the next Wall Street Journal article talking about the baby boomers. I thought I saw something the other day talking about retirement and how so many people just hadn't saved up for retirement, and they're going to be tapping the equity out of their homes like you're talking about. It's crazy. It's here. The articles are coming out. The stats are coming out. So I'm always, anytime you ever see a really cool stat, like a chart, send it over. If I see one, I'm sending it over to you. I always get geeked out by that kind of stuff about what's coming. So Phillip, so much fun getting into this, and a really interesting industry. And for anybody that has been watching and listening, we love you all out there. We see you out there. We have all of the chyrons that have been dropping. Mike's been posting it there of where to find Phillip on all the platforms, how to get in touch with him, you name it. It's all out there. So Phillip, awesome stuff on the show. We do this segment, Phillip, at the end called signature questions, things that you and I didn't even go over in the onboarding. But I do this because I really want to get this perspective of where you would go with some of these things. So first thing I would ask you is, a lot of investors are always trying to sharpen their skills with sales, negotiations, investing, doing marketing, or networking. From your perspective, what would be the most important skill you think a real estate investor needs to have in their tool belt today?
It's a great question. As a guy who spent millions of dollars on every type of marketing, I can relate to all of those people and how hard that is to keep that machine on. What I've found is your life will change when you build relationships with people that have the ear of Daughter Judy, or that they have leads for you constantly and consistently. And when you build relationships, now you're not tied to the marketing ad spend. And so when you start working with people that need to sell their house versus want to sell their house, your life will change. And so I always say there's, in the world of relationships, there's one night stands and there's 50-year marriages. We're in the 50-year marriage business. And that's because people in senior living, when you do this right, everybody cares about what's in it for them, Al. And so I'm a tool for them to make their life easier and their customer, Daughter Judy, the senior's life easier. When they know that I'm a tool for them, that's when you have business coming your way the next 2 decades.
Got it. Yeah. I can see that right there for sure. Phillip, let me ask you this. So in terms of software, a lot of people want to find the next software, the next item, the next way to categorize, or maybe use something for a CRM, or be able to be more efficient in their business. What have been some of the best software tools that you've been implementing in your business today?
Well, we didn't talk about this question beforehand. So in my family, it's called tooting your own horn. So forgive me with this answer, but we have a software for our people that are a part of our program. And so what's in there, right? It's a database. What good is buying a lead list unless you do something with it, right? And so you have to have perfect follow-up. I always say the Ferrari's in the follow-up. What makes any CRM stand out from any other CRM, because it's a commodity at this point, is the uniqueness. So it's the follow-up campaigns. It's the people in the list. We've got this Daughter Judy list, people searching for senior living in real time. We've got 309,000 senior living people already. That's the people you're going to build relationships with that we can push into there. It's like, who should I call? Well, here's the list, right? We actually have the list. And then, we haven't gone this whole episode without saying the word AI, so we got to say it. Like, there's things changing, right? AI is built into our websites now that we built for people. People, especially real estate agents, never answer their phone. And okay, that's fine. Now AI is going to respond back and text back and start the conversation. So we're getting to a world where there's technology out here that's very, very affordable. I'll give you a good example. You're good at making content, but you also know how much effort you put into making content. We all know we're supposed to put content out every single day. 99.9% of us don't do it. With our software, we do social post on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Google My Business every single day, built in. So imagine having 4 posts go out for you every single day. Like, those things are here now at scale. And so there's no excuse anymore to not have, what is our social presence? Is mind share is eyeballs, that's cash, right? That is how you make money today, is awareness.
Yeah. And being able to implement those just in a seamless, efficient way can just change everything for you. And it takes your hands off of it and puts it in the software's hands, and then that's it. It makes it easy, right? That's what you want to do. Make it easy. Phillip, we're always trying to learn more. We're always trying to educate ourselves more. We're always trying to expand our mind, whether it's business, entrepreneurship, real estate, mindset. What have been some of your favorite books that you have read or are reading that can really help some of the listeners just expand their mind?
There's this book called The Big Rich that I'm a fan of. It's about the oil industry in our country. And you might be thinking, how is that related at all? It's funny how where money gets involved with politics, how it influences everything, and how we're so built as an oil. Our country is built on oil. And you don't realize it until you listen to this story. And also, I think one of the biggest things you said about our own brains. We don't matter for very long. Senior living has taught me that we don't matter for very long. So be kind to everyone. And it talked about the fortunes that were built and lost and built and lost and built and lost. And I look at, the history books are written about the people who took the chance. It's very rarely written about the person who sat in their cubicle for 30 years and never made a fuss, right? It's written about those that take a chance. And are they smarter than any, the winners, the losers? I think, I don't know. I think the point is life is what you make it. I hope when I'm 90, I'm still forever learning. Some people are scared to death of change. I embrace it because in that is the opportunity. And I know this. I feel like Biff from Back to the Future. I've got the sports almanac. I know the next 20 years. I know it. I already know what's happening. And it's like, is it even gambling if you already know the outcome? The answer is no. And guys, this is it. And you're going to look back and go, I was on the thing with Al and Phil, and I was, don't let this pass you by too. It's too obvious, and it's the future of our country. And if I can be so bold, this is real estate for the next 20 years.
I agree. This is going to be the industry. This is going to be real estate. This is going to be Florida. This is going to be Texas. This is going to be North Carolina. Any baby boomer state. I mean, more in Florida than ever. I mean, with the amount of people that are moving here from California and New York. I mean, the amount of homes that they're going to be building, and then eventually the next wave of real estate, whatever that next phase is, just going to be even bigger. So 1,000%, this is the next wave. I'm all in on it. I'm every year I'm like, we're going deeper. We're going even deeper into this. So, Phillip, awesome getting to talk to you about this. Thank you for taking the time to come on the show, enlighten people, and just so everybody can hear it. What's the best way people can get in touch with you?
Info at Mom's House, or go online. We have a big YouTube channel. I want people to get aware of this. I mean, if you're a regular real estate person, you're like, I know what this is. I want to buy houses. And I'm like, okay, but hold on. You have to, this is relationship building. And so some investors are too transactional, right? And I want those people who say, hold on, I want to build long-term relationships. I always give the analogy of Bob. If Bob brings you 3 deals a year, which is nothing, and you make 15 grand a deal, Bob's relationship is worth 45 grand. And if you have that for the next decade, he's worth 450 grand. Well, how many Bobs do you want? Mm-hmm. We always teach 20 is plenty. Can I get 20 people that can know, like, and trust me in senior living? And then you'll have leads constantly chasing you. And that's a huge difference than most. Hey, you're spending 5 grand on direct mail. Let's spend 10. If you're spending 10, let's spend 20. All of that's fine too. I'm not knocking that. I'm saying that this is a different animal. Yeah.
I can see that. Phillip, as I do towards the end of my show, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. Anything that you really want to leave the audience with the lasting impact, really want to take it home for them, maybe something you didn't cover or just really want to double down on. As I do, Final Words, Final Thoughts, Phillip Vincent.
The average cost to move into senior living is $6,000 a month. If you or your parents had to move in today, where would that money come from? And if they have a $2,300 a month pension, you ask yourself, are you going to kick in the difference? And the answer is for a few months, maybe. And then you'll say, I need to sell Mom's house, right? This is the catalyst of when people need to move. And so this is the flashpoint of when people need to move. And if you devote yourself to this, it'll be very rewarding. We haven't said the F word very much today, fulfillment. There's a ton of fulfillment in helping these families. And that is like the real estate. I think the American dream is to help a lot and to make a lot. And we have fulfillment and contribution. That's rare for real estate.
Yeah, it's all about fulfillment and contribution to the community, to helping back, helping family, helping just give back. And so I love the message. I love what I'm hearing from this. And it's always a unique perspective when I get to bring a guest on that I've seen at the masterminds, I've seen out networking, but then I can really hear more about what they're getting into, what they're doing. So it's like, I get it now, right? Like I get it. I see what Phillip Vincent's doing. It's awesome. Phillip, thanks again so much for taking time out of the day to do this. And you and I will be seeing each other at Family Mastermind really soon, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Al, for having me.
You got it, man. You take care.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, another episode in the books. If you missed any of that with Phillip Vincent, go back, check it out, watch it. I'm a huge believer, as Phillip, the silver tsunami is here. For the next 10, 20, even potentially 30 years. This is going to be the biggest thing. And I talked about it at presentations. I talked about it for years. I put it up there. I put the wave that's going up there. This is coming. So if you want to learn more about it, you got to definitely follow Phillip. And of course, follow us when you scan the QR code, because we talk about a lot of this stuff on the channel. I've talked about stats. I got to do more videos on that, stats and what's coming, but focus on this. And if you missed the episode, check it out. And we will see you all next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Another one in the books. It'll be another great one out there. So we'll see you next Wednesday. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.